Yeah, so we started prior to the 2016 hacks doing cybersecurity awareness training for all of our staff, for all of our campaigns. What is old is new. 2016 is way in the past, but campaigns are seeing the same things today that they were seeing back in 2016. So, what we do is we basically put all of the staffers through a cybersecurity information awareness training. And it basically helps to prepare them before the attacks come in. Who are the bad guys? How are they going to target them? Some examples of real attacks that we see. And then we finish it off with, okay, we've scared you. We've got your attention. Here's what you can do to up your security. Password managers, two-factor authentication, what to look out for. Once you've sort of seen how they're going to target you and realize that you are going to be targeted, right? Like we can't stick our heads in the ground, fingers crossed, I'm not going to be the one that's going to be targeted. Everybody's going to be targeted.
And if you look at the research that's been done over the 8 years, since sort of like this misinformation became this sort of overwhelming election problem, the research shows that coordinated, inauthentic behavior, typically we see from Russia, Iran, for example, China, has actually very little to no effects, right? At least the empirical evidence. It might amplify domestic disinformation, misinformation, but people who interact with these accounts, people are directly exposed, very little impact on attitudes and behavior. The threat is not international, it's domestic, right? And it's not simply about social media in itself. It's about creating an information environment where false and misleading information is not only amplified on social media, it's amplified in hyper-partisan press, it's amplified by politicians themselves. And that's when it's impactful, right? It's not simply seeing a fake news account on social media.
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I'd say a couple of things. I want to amplify a couple of things that Erik said and maybe expand on them. This is a unique year because there are 50 elections going on. 2 billion people are voted. We're so preoccupied with our own election.
You mean around the world?
Around the world. And so issues of disinformation crop up in India, where Modi has basically turned WhatsApp into a propaganda tool. In Brazil, where Bolsonaro used TikTok and Meche to kind of promote the idea that the election was stolen. We're seeing it all over the world. But I want to focus on one other thing related to what we've been studying. And that is, I think Adam talked about AI, which is, as he said, a huge challenge. I think the biggest risk is the extent to which the traditional social media platforms are amplifying the kind of disinformation that Erik's talking about. That's really what's happening. And it's happening as the main companies, Meta, Google, TikTok, and certainly X, are in retreat. And so what we saw was in 2016, there was a sense, oh my God, we have to do something. To their credit, the companies hired people to do election integrity. And now, in a baffling way, they've retreated. We're back to 2016. So it's not just Elon Musk who fired 80% of his employees, 6,000 people. There is no election integrity at X. But it's also Meta. They had 300 people in an election unit. Now they have 60. And WhatsApp, which is part of Google, was taking down videos that were describing the stolen election. They now put them back up. And so we're in a place where, and TikTok, we could have a whole discussion about TikTok and that algorithm, which is brilliant in so many ways technically, but allows an infusion of disinformation, harmful content to spread across 170 million Americans' screens. And so, to me, the issue for us now is we know this election is going to be challenged. It's going to be challenging because of the ubiquitous nature of this technology. It's going to be challenging because we have a candidate by the name of Trump who revels in all of this. And we have social media platforms that have decided they're going to be more neutral. They're going to take a step back and see what happens. We can't wait and see what happens. People who are election monitors, people who are working for boards of election are now under threat. Our system is under threat. And the people that ought to be rising to the occasion, the companies that run these platforms, have decided to take a pass.
I will just say two things. One, AI definitely democratizes who can use these tools. I don't think there's any data on the demographics of who might be spreading misinformation in terms of their age, for example. But it does democratize and lowers the barrier to entry. So an individual can use AI and generate a lot of like fake news websites or other types of bots simply out of their home. I will also say though the research, those who are most vulnerable to mis and disinformation are older adults. So if you look at the research, the very good social science research, who are the most vulnerable? It's about 9% of the population of like social media users. It's a small percentage of the population in the United States specifically. And usually they're older white adults who have conservative leanings. So that's often the target for a lot of mis and disinformation.
And there's a number of companies that we've worked with to track disinformation online, and there's numbers in this proactive sort of, they're helping us to quantify, is this something that's being heard? Is this something that you even need to respond to, right? As you said, a lot of times, the impact isn't really there, and sometimes just by responding to it, you're actually giving it more light than it really needs. But I will say, following up, like I said, following the 2016 election, we had calls monthly with X, with Twitter at the time, with Facebook at the time, where we could go to them and say, hey, we're seeing this, we're seeing that, and they were working with us. That no longer exists. That all faded quickly. So we don't have counterparts in these companies anymore that we can go to on a monthly basis, whether it's D side or our side, to address problems that we're seeing that can affect elections.